Hey guys, Cory from Cory Means Business. Well, the CPI report dropped. Inflation is coming in hot. Once again, we're seeing increases in inflation. The Fed does not have it under control. 3.5% year over year is what inflation came in. Their target, obviously, they've been talking about has been 2%. And man, they are way off from being able to hit anything close to that. So what's going on? What's up? What's flat? The big ones, obviously, that are driving the majority of this are energy and housing, right? So yeah, energy was up. We all seen it at the gas pumps here recently. Gas is getting more expensive again. Obviously, there is policy issues that go along with that affect the price of oil, which then affects the price of gas. The refinery constraints, which go back to regulation and the EPA. And then obviously housing. We've got some major issues in housing that are causing an uptick, basically in rental rates. Obviously, you have the interest rates on homes just driving the prices to be able to the affordability of homes into a tailspin. 7.5%, I think, is the average mortgage right now, 30-year mortgage. And when you look at the price of homes and you add in that mortgage rate, yeah, you're looking at having just astronomical housing prices. What does this mean for you? Well, it means you're going to have to pay more. It means you have to work harder, right? And make more money. The biggest key here, though, is really that, what is driving this? Again, energy prices are the ones that really are hurting us. And what does it have to do with? It has to do, people think on the surface that typically it just has to do with oil. That the price of oil is going to dictate the price of fuel. And that's not necessarily true. You have the second part of that equation, obviously, which is the price of oil, but you also have refining it into a usable fuel, which is really, when you look at the price of gas in the United States, that's really the key. The key is the refining capacities. Number one, obviously, it's very costly and difficult to deal with. So you have the EPA down the necks of the refiners, and you have the limited refining capacity. There's only a handful of refineries around the United States that can even handle the refining of fuels. There hasn't been a new one built in over 40 years. Now imagine that, 40 years. We've had a hell of a lot of growth in the United States, but they haven't built a single new refinery in over 40 years. And even the ones we have, they don't allow them to really be expanded. They'll allow them to be retrofit once in a while, and they get taken down for maintenance, things like that. But the biggest issue is they won't even let them expand. The idea being behind the regulation of pollution, the Green New Deal, green energy, etc. Right? I'm sure most of you know how I feel about the Green New Deal. So until we start actually addressing the refining issue, if we do decide to drill, if we get an administration that comes in, let's say in the next 6 months, that decides to drill, the new cheaper oil is going to be great, but the real situation has to be dealt with the refining capacities, which I think that administration could start with a T, would certainly deal with that as well. And what we need to do is we need one drill, right? Start opening up the drilling again, start getting our own oil here, which is much cheaper, better quality, which requires less refining. And then two, we have to increase our refining capabilities. We have to build new refineries, and we also have to expand the refineries we have. Not to do so is just ridiculous. So we have to do that. If we do those two things, if we drill oil, and obviously with fracking, we have major fracking capabilities here in the United States now, cheap. And if we increase the refining capacity to get us fuels, we can get gas down to $1 a gallon. We can get diesel down to $1.25, $1.50 a gallon. It absolutely can happen. And hopefully it will happen here in the next 6 months, because that obviously affects every other price. Everything requires energy to be able to either make it, use it, or get it to you, right? So you need energy for everything. If the price of energy is really high because we're having refining issues and because we have lack of drilling, then obviously everything else is going to be high. You also have massive amounts of oil and petroleum products that are petroleum that is also used in manufacturing of almost everything else. Plastic is also oil. So the more expensive it is to get the oil, the more difficult it is to get the oil, the farther to transport to get the oil. Obviously, that goes into manufacturing, which then causes the manufacturing costs to be higher as well. So that's really what's going on with the energy end of the CPI, and the rest of it's just nonsense and noise. But I think most of us know that's the common sense answer. As far as housing goes, what's the issue with housing? Well, same thing. Energy prices is going to affect the cost to transport building materials. It's going to cost general contractors more to drive their trucks around their equipment. The developers, it's going to cost them more to have the land developed, graded, etc. So energy goes into that as well. Then the second end of it is the regulation concerning the building permits. Vast majority of the places that people live, unfortunately, the vast majority of people live in larger metropolitan areas. We've become urbanized, very urbanized, unfortunately, but it's the truth. I live in a medium-sized city in Tucson, Arizona, and the bottom line is that it's become so arduous to get building permits. I've actually tried at my own home to just add an RV garage or do some expansion. It is a 2-year wait for building permits. How obscene is that? 2 years to get building permits? Even when we can get the costs down of the building materials, right, which they've come down tremendously in the last 2 years. You've had building materials come down way, really far in cost. But why isn't housing getting cheaper? Because energy prices have continued to rise. And you also have the big kicker, which is the regulation on the building permits. You can't get building permits to build anything fast enough. So how are you going to relieve the housing crisis if you can't build houses? You can't get permits. The other bottleneck on housing, obviously, is the labor market. Trying to get skilled labor for any of the contracting, in any of the building industries, roofing, plumbing, electrical, electricians. Obviously, those things are very, very hard to get, which is a big push, obviously, we need to make with regards to blue-collar work and actually having the trade crafts. The trade crafts are vitally important, as you can see. Everybody can't be a coder and an engineer in the medical field. It's great that we have those people, and again, God bless them, but we need to have blue-collar trade craftsmen. We need more plumbers, roofers, electricians, framers, and there's really good money in that. If you have children that are coming up, in high school looking to go into college, honestly, at this point, unless they're going to become something high level medically wise, I just don't see that it makes any financial sense to get a college degree. I think going into a trade is far superior. And obviously, if you looked at my other shows, we talk about how you can make millions of dollars in a trade anyway. So again, if the idea is making more money, that's a much better path. I could get a trade as a plumber, start a plumbing business, just me at first, then hire some employees, continue to scale. I could scale that plumbing business to 100 employees, 200 employees, and I could become extremely wealthy. Again, that's a much better route to go than, again, trying to get some 10-year degree that's you go in owing hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans, and now you need to work for 10 more years just to dig your way out of that. You've wasted the 10 years, or you've spent the 10 years on the education that then puts you back $300,000, and now how long to make up that 10 years of time you lost, and then the $300,000 you have to then pay back. Again, if you look at the economics of it, if you look at the speed of it with regards to making money, it's just losing end there. So until we deal with the energy issues, until we get cheaper oil and cheaper fuel and cheaper energy overall, we're going to continue to have these type of pricing issues. And until we get building regulations under control, get easier, faster permits, and get more people in the actual trades to where we can start building homes and apartments and everything else we need, you're going to continue to have these pressure points. And at this point, let's face it, housing, to buy a house, the American dream is pretty much crushed for Generation Z and most of millennials. They will never even be able to afford a home, which is terrible. The average housing price is just off the charts. We'll go into that in another video, but that's just a shame, and it's got to change. It's got to change. All right, guys, that's my time. I appreciate it. See you on the next one.